In today's video, we're going to continue on with our series where we cover all 31 NHL teams, recap their 17-18 season, and look ahead to the 2018 offseason. Today's team we're discussing is the Anaheim Ducks, and that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, today we're discussing the Anaheim Ducks. We're going to complete a quick recap here of their 17-18 season and look ahead as to what we should expect from this team during the 2018 offseason. I think this offseason is going to be very interesting for the Anaheim Ducks. They have a lot of things they need to address when it comes to injuries, contracts, etc. So let's jump in here and get started. So the Anaheim Ducks had a pretty solid 17-18 season. They finished with a 44-25-13 record for 101 points and placed second in the Pacific Division. They had a first-round playoff matchup with the San Jose Sharks, who finished in third place. But the playoffs did not go so well for the Ducks at all. They went out quite early, 4 straight losses to the San Jose Sharks to lose in round 1. Now let's take a look at some of the underlying numbers here for the Ducks for the season. Now they finished with 231 goals for, which placed them in 19th place in the NHL. They finished with 209 goals against, which was third best in the NHL, so that's a really solid result. Their power play was not so great, 17.8%, put them in 23rd, so the bottom half of the league. Their PK was 83.2%, which put them in 5th best in the NHL, and their face-off winning percentage was 51.3 for 8th best in the NHL. So obviously their team defense, their face-offs are all pretty strong. They finished very high when it comes to face-off, penalty killing, and goals against. If they were able to score more goals, they probably would have had an even better year and probably would have given the division a much more better run to possibly finish in first place. And now let's take a look at some of the bright spots for this team and players that had really good years, and then we'll address some of the things that didn't go so well for the Ducks during the 17-18 season. Now, in my opinion, one of the breakout stars on this team is Rickard Rakell. Obviously, he finished strong with 34 goals and 69 points. He's slowly kind of becoming one of the leaders on this team. I thought Andre Kasha had a pretty solid year as well, putting up 20 goals. He's certainly a player that catches my eye anytime I get to watch the Ducks play. I thought defenseman Josh Manson had a tremendous year. He finished with 37 points and a +34 rating. I think Manson is slowly emerging as a very, very solid defenseman for the Anaheim Ducks for sure. And I thought goaltender John Gibson was tremendous this year. I thought Gibson had a real solid season. He finished with 31 wins, 18 losses, and 17 overtime losses, a 2.43 goals against average, and a .926 save percentage. Now, in my opinion, obviously those numbers aren't going to get you into the top 5, top 7 in the league. Not going to get you into the Vezina conversation. But he had a really, really solid year and is slowly becoming, working his way up the ranks among NHL goaltenders year after year. Gibson's really developed into a strong goalie for the Ducks and a big part of the backbone of this team to make sure that game in and game out, they have an opportunity to win. Obviously, with their goals against being so strong in the NHL, he played a big role in that, as well as their team D. Their defense has been pretty solid for them as well. They've had a lot of defensive prospects turn into solid NHL blue liners, and that's been a big part of their team's success recently as well. Now let's take a look at some of the things that were not in the Ducks' favor this past year, things that did not go well, and the number one thing we're going to mention is injuries. Obviously, this team was battered and bruised from the year before. They had a few guys miss the beginning of the season. Primarily, Ryan Kessler missed significant time again. Hampus Lindholm as well. Obviously, Ryan Getzlaf missed a fair bit of time as well. He only ended up playing in 56 games, but he did put up 61 points. So I thought Getzlaf was pretty solid when he was playing. So his production hasn't tailed off like other guys like Corey Perry. Obviously, Perry's season wasn't fantastic. He is declining in his play, and considering that he still has 3 more years at $8.625 million, the numbers he's putting up does not justify that contract anymore. He finished with 17 goals and 49 points. He just doesn't have the scoring touch that he did in years past. Now, obviously, Ryan Kessler, as again, we'll mention him, he only put up 14 points, and he did get into 44 games. But now we're talking about Ryan Kessler possibly missing all of next season. Even though he played in 44 games and he appeared in the playoffs, you kind of got the feeling that he really wasn't 100%. He wasn't quite right. And obviously now, with the possibility that he's missing all next season, that's going to have a major impact on the remaining years and life that he has left in his career. So obviously Kessler is, because of the style of play that he plays on the ice. He's certainly a guy that's banged up a lot, had a lot of significant injuries, and you have to question his long-term viability here. If he sits out all of next season, will he be able to return and contribute in a good way for the Ducks the year after? It's really difficult to say how this is going to go, but that's a big question mark for the Ducks leading into next year, is the health of Ryan Kesler. That hasn't been confirmed by the Ducks or by the player himself, but there has been rumblings from NHL sources indicating that Kesler very well may have to sit out all of next year to get himself healed up to be able to resume playing. Now, another guy that they missed a lot last year, he only played 2 games, is Patrick Eaves. Obviously, from what I understand, he's suffering from a Guillain-Barré syndrome, and there's no real timetable or question mark still on him too, when and if he's going to be able to return. So obviously, health reasons has really had a major impact on this Ducks team, especially between Kesler and Eaves. Mind you, age is kind of catching up with them as well. A lot of their guys are kind of moving past their prime years. And obviously, as you know, as time goes on, after all these years of being a pro athlete, it wears on your body, and they do become more prone to injury and everything down throughout the later part of their career. So that seems to be a problem for this team because their core is getting older. Now, throughout the season, this team did make a few moves. Obviously, they added some guys along the way. The most significant move they made was trading defenseman Sami Vatanen to the New Jersey Devils for center Adam Henrique. I thought Adam Henrique fit in real well, and he's going to be that much more important going into next year, especially if Ryan Kesler is not in the lineup. For example, their top 3 center icemen might be going into next year, could be Getzlaf. Raquel can play center. He may have to do that. Maybe if you put Adam Henrique as your number 3, you still got pretty good depth at the center ice position. Their number 4 position could be prospect Sam Steele, who may make a run at making his team. Or they could possibly look at bringing back Derek Grant, who I thought is a 4th-line center, certainly contributed when he had an opportunity to play with the Ducks this year as well. So I wouldn't rule out them bringing back Derek Grant. He's a pending UFA. Now let's look at some other guys that are UFAs as well. Right now this team has Antoine Vermette, Chris Kelly, Jason Chimera, JT Brown, and Kevin Bieksa are also unrestricted free agents. And to be completely honest, I think it is unlikely and fairly doubtful that any or most of these guys do return. I've seen rumblings that Antoine Vermette is leading towards retirement. Same with Chris Kelly. I mean, Chris Kelly was basically retired, decided to make a run at the Olympic team, which he accomplished. And then after the Olympics, where he performed pretty well, had a chance to go play with the Ducks for the remainder part of the NHL season. But I think those 2 guys are probably at the end of the line. Hard to say what happens with defenseman Kevin Bieksa. I'm not sure he's going to be continuing to look into play, or if he's going to be able to be brought back by the Ducks, or if he'll be looking elsewhere. That's certainly a question mark. Jason Chimera, I don't think he returns. He might be at the end of the line as well. And forward JT Brown, I mean, he could return. It is possible we might see a short-term, lower-valued contract for JT Brown to have an opportunity to make this Ducks roster next year. Now, they do have some RFAs to look at as well. We have Andre Kasha, who I mentioned before, was a 20-goal scorer. He is in need of a new contract. I'm sure he'll certainly be qualified. I don't know if he'll get too long of a term, but I can certainly see them going probably anywhere from 3 to 4 years with Kasha. I think that seems reasonable with a 20-goal scorer for sure. You got Brandon Montour and Nick Ritchie as well. They're certainly going to be re-signed. Not sure how long, what kind of terms they're looking at. I'm not really sure that any of them are the type of player you'd want to commit to on a 7 or 8 year deal just yet. However, I can see them certainly getting pretty decent bridge contracts, anywhere from 2 to 4 years at a good value. They're certainly players the Ducks are going to want to keep around 100%. Now, as far as prospects that could make this roster next year, I think centerman Sam Steele has an excellent shot at making this roster, especially with Kesler likely not playing next year. That certainly could open a door for Steele to come in and take a spot. They could opt as well, like I said, to go with Derek Grant. They may give Steele some seasoning in the American Hockey League. His junior career has now come to a close. He finished strong with the Regina Pats within a Memorial Cup appearance. Regina was the host team, and they came really close to winning the whole tournament, even though they didn't win the Western Hockey League Championship. They came back for the Memorial Cup and put on an excellent show, put on a strong finish here, and Sam Steele looked tremendous, winning the Memorial Cup MVP honors. So he'll certainly have an excellent shot at making this team next year, but they certainly have options that don't need to rush him, but they may want his offense in the lineup. Now, another guy that you probably see in the Ducks lineup next year is Troy Terry. Obviously, Troy Terry was recently signed after he completed his college career. You also saw him playing in the World Junior Championships for Team USA before. He's a little bit of a shootout specialist, but he also, is pretty good on normal play as well. He's pretty quick and has some decent offensive skills. So Troy Terry, I think, has an opportunity to make this lineup next year as well. As I mentioned, with the fourth line center position, could be up for grabs if they decide to go with Getzlaf, Raquel, Henrique, 1, 2, 3. I mean, Henrique it certainly can play in the number 2 slot should they decide to put Raquel more on the wing, and they can adjust that throughout the season. They may look to add some depth through free agency as well. Wouldn't be shocking to see them maybe sign 1 or 2 depth defensemen and maybe a winger or 2 as well. Obviously, a big question mark around this team is are they going to make any significant trades? It certainly has been discussed, been in the rumor mill, and we will probably discuss this further in a video coming up here soon. But could Corey Perry be traded this season? Now, he has been mentioned in trade rumors lately. He's been on some of the big media outlets, trade bait boards. It's certainly something that he has a lot of control over with his contract having a no-move clause. So obviously anything that they do, he obviously has to be in agreement to it. But could they talk to him and maybe suggest a fresh start for both the team and the player, that maybe they retain a little bit of salary to make it a little bit more attractive? So it's certainly a name that's come up, but I think the odds are probably slim, but I wouldn't completely rule it out. Just because it probably would be good for the team if they explore this. He's getting up there in age towards has not produced anything like he used to. But maybe if he get on a fresh start with some different scenery, maybe he could rejuvenate himself and play the last few years of that contract and produce at a better level. It's really hard to say. I'm going to assume he probably would prefer not to leave and very well may block any opportunities to trade him anyway. But either way, he's a name that's come up. And let me know down in the comments, do you think the Anaheim Ducks will seriously consider shopping Corey Perry? And do you think if they do approach him to waive his no-trade clause, is that something he would consider? And could we see him in a different uniform next season? Of all the guys on the team right now that could be traded, he's probably the name that comes up the most. We've got some key RFAs to look after. Otherwise, I can see them maybe adding a little bit through free agency and the remainder through some prospects coming up through the system, so they can hopefully get younger and faster and a little bit more offensive. That's certainly the main area of focus, in my opinion. Now, if you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there is plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, smash that subscribe button. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button as well. I'd really appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.